Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. Today, I am going to do something different. I am going to ink Yoda. This was a drawing I did a couple of weeks ago, and actually, this drawing has some couple of problems that a lot of you guys pointed out. Like Yoda only has three fingers, two fingers and a thumb. Which I went back and corrected. And also, a lot of you guys pointed out that the Stormtrooper helmet was way too small, and which you guys are correct. So I went ahead and redrew the Stormtrooper's helmet bigger. Now, with that in mind, or should I say, now that's done, I decided to ink Yoda. So when I start out, I like to ink the outline first. So as you can see, I am already just inking the outline. You know, it's almost like it's like creating a coloring book almost. I like a strong, bold ink lines around the figure first. And I started with the head, and I'm basically moving down. So those of you guys who didn't see early on, the inking pen that I use is Micron Pigma pen, size 08 for the thick black lines, and size 01 for the thin lines to do the details. And I thought it was really cool to have this little, like a little pouch that Yoda carries. I don't think Jedi Master have pockets in their robes. I may be wrong, but I thought it'd be really cool to have Yoda having this little pouch where he keeps his I don't know his dice or something. And at this point, I'm just kind of like following the outline of the pencil. There's no rhyme or reason. I like to start. I usually, when I draw in ink, I like to start from the head and then move my way down. So now Yoda was a Jedi Master, and I guess the strongest Jedi Masters. He is a kind of I think like a 3 foot tall green alien, and for over 800 years he taught all the Jedi's, and he was naturally gifted, and the flow flowed strongly through him. And if I remember correctly, George Lucas, when he created Yoda, he kind of wanted like a small frog-like creature crossed with the Dalai Lama. So I thought that was kind of interesting thing. And now Yoda was created or designed um, by Stuart Freeborn and Wendy Froud. And I think if I remember correctly, they based some of Yoda's feature after Albert Einstein, which I find it kind of funny. And originally, Lucas wanted Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, to perform the puppeteering for Yoda, but Henson was busy with another project, so he recommended his friend Frank Oz. And for those who don't know, Frank Oz is the voice of Fozzie the Bear, Miss Piggy, and other Muppets. Actually, now think about it. Actually, I prefer the puppets than the CGI in the movies. I don't know. I guess especially Empire Strikes Back. I really enjoy the puppetry of the Empire in the Empire Strikes Back. Sometimes the practical effects I believe are just it just looks better sometimes. So there's the Stormtrooper helmet. So originally, as many of you guys pointed out, I drew the Stormtrooper helmet kind of small. And that's one of those things. When you're kind of really into a drawing, you just kind of like forget to like check the some of the details. And I didn't realize that I drew the Stormtrooper helmet that small until I finished drawing it. And by the time I finished drawing it and realized it was small, that the video was already finished and ready to upload on YouTube. Actually, the Stormtrooper helmet design is actually pretty cool too. It's pretty cool too. I remember as a kid, I thought I was like, wow, that's a pretty striking helmet. It looked like a kind of like a skeleton almost, with the white armor with the black markings. It looked kind of ghoulish. Also, the new Stormtrooper helmets that they designed for the trilogy, the new trilogy. I thought that was pretty cool too. I mean, they actually did a nice job of kind of refining it and making it more simpler in a certain sense. But I thought they did a really nice job of capturing the overall design of the original. But I'm a kid that grew up in the 80s, so I kind of preferred the original Star Trek. Oh man, talk about a Freudian slip. I prefer the original Star Wars Stormtrooper. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are gonna ask me which franchise do you prefer, Star Wars or Star Trek? To be honest with you, I probably lean toward the Star Trek. I mean, I watched Star Trek as a kid on TV, and just I thought, I don't know, like I thought Star Trek had a better story. And actually, now think about it, because I tend to be, like Star Trek is more science fiction, and while Star Wars I feel is more fantasy than anything else. It's like epic fantasy, which makes sense because George Lucas originally wanted to do Flash Gordon, and Flash Gordon was a 1930s kind of space opera kind of thing. Is more fantasy than science fiction. But I guess Lucas couldn't get the license to Flash Gordon, so he created Star Wars, which in my opinion is like 1,000 times better than Flash Gordon. So there I am inking the eyes. So I switched to I basically try not to put too much pressure on the ink pen when I'm inking the finer details, especially around the eyes. So it gives that kind of that thin line. Kind of drawing the cheekbone area, kind of feathering the shadow. So when you're doing the facial features, you don't want to go too heavy-handed. I'm inking the ears. These great big pointed gremlin-like ears. Kind of give it that on that neck creases, a little bit of a turkey neck. he has those wrinkles around the mouth. Because Yoda is, how old is Yoda? I think he's like, it's probably like 900 years old. I mean, if he taught the Jedi's for 800 years, so he must be at least 900 years, maybe 1,000 years old. Kind of adding that tufts of hair. And Yoda has this kind of weird, kind of like this, like a grid-like pattern on his forehead. I'm just kind of like reinforcing the eyes a little bit. Yeah, so the lightsaber, I have no idea what the Yoda's lightsaber looked like, so I just kind of like winged it. All right, here's the fun part. So I'm using Speedball ink. I think it's Speedball Super Black ink, which is a very high carbon ink, which has a really dark pigment. And the brush that I'm using is just a regular watercolor brush, kind of like a fine watercolor brush. And I'm just like just darkening, just blacking everything in. You know, where all the shadows are, just black it out. So like the old saying goes, when in doubt, black it out. Was it? I think that was Wally Wood who said it, or was it Jeff Jones? I think probably Wally Wood. Wally Wood was just a master artist. He was known for the Mad magazine in the 50s and all those great EC horror, not horror, sci-fi and fantasy comics. I think Wally Wood during the 50s was like one of the greatest artists of the comic book medium, especially in the 50s. The guy that I really looked up to, or I often look at his stuff when it comes to inking, is Al Williamson. So Al Williamson was absolutely a master artist, and so especially his ink work is just it's just fantastic. So Al Williamson was he was a big Flash Gordon fan actually, and he was like a big Alex Raymond fan. So Alex Raymond is the creator of Flash Gordon, or the artist in Flash Gordon, and and he's the guy that made Flash Gordon popular. It was a newspaper strip in the 30s, and Alex Raymond had this like beautiful classically ink style, like a classic brush style, which I thought Al Williamson took it to the next level, kind of refined it, and and just made it really just a thing of beauty. So like I mean, Al Williamson's control of the brush is just legendary. If you guys ever get a chance, you guys really should study Al Williamson if you guys want to learn how to ink stuff. So I'm doing my best to channel Al Williamson here. So yeah, Al Williamson was also the artist in the Star Wars daily comic strip, newspaper strip. No, he did the Sundays, I think. I don't know. I mean, like, it's been a while since I saw Al Williamson's Star Wars newspaper strip, but Al was absolutely fantastic. Actually, one of Al's best work was Secret Agent X9, or they renamed it to Secret Agent Corrigan. And if you guys look at that newspaper strip, which ran in the 1960s and 70s, Al Williamson was at his peak. And I thought Al Williamson should have drawn James Bond. If they ever turned James Bond into a comic book or a newspaper strip, actually they did have James Bond newspaper strip. Now I think about it, but I thought Al Williamson was a perfect fit for James Bond newspaper strip and comic book because no one can draw like guys in suits and that classic film noir inking style like Williamson. And so there's a story in Secret Agent Corrigan, Secret Agent X9, that where Phil Corrigan, the secret agent, is dressed in tux, and he just kind of comes to the casino to talk to a girl. It was just like a pure James Bond visual. I mean, I remember I was when I saw it, when I started my career, and I saw that panel, I'm like, oh, holy crap! It was just absolutely just stunning. So I basically went in and brushed everything, and right now I'm off camera, kind of cleaning the brush a little bit. Now, normally I would just let this part kind of dry a bit, but since I'm under the gun time-wise, I'm just going ahead and start inking, adding the small detail using the micro pigment pen, and adding the finer details on the robe. So I'm trying my best not to touch the wet ink. And lucky for me, the lamp, my drawing lamp, is pumping out a lot of heat, so it actually dried the the ink line or the heavy inks fairly quickly. But I'm trying my best. You guys don't see it, but I'm kind of hovering over the drawing, trying not to let the bottom of my hand touch the ink area. Because I've done that too. I've done that many times, where I get too eager to ink something, and then I just put my hand right on the wet ink and just smear the whole drawing and ruin it. So that's the thing. Like Yoda, you have to learn patience. Yeah, that's funny because like when I was drawing this earlier, penciling this, I didn't realize Yoda only had three fingers, two fingers and a thumb, and a lot of you guys kind of pointed that out. I guess I wasn't a big Star Wars fan as I thought I was, because there's a lot of stuff that I completely screwed up on. But the size of the helmet, that was a big one. So right now I'm off camera, searching for my pen. So this pen is size 05. I was kind of digging through my bag of pens looking for it, and I kind of decided to kind of give it that line work in the bottom of the robe, giving it that little texture, because like Yoda has kind of like a very rough robe, roughly textured robe. By kind of like having the light cast, inking the bottom, and then kind of keeping the top kind of fairly not too much ink in shadows. It kind of give it that spotlight on Yoda's upper body. No, another guy who actually was a really great inker was Bernie Wrightson. Bernie Wrightson was another great inker, and he did this like really horror, like gothic horror inking, which everything is just bathed in just deep shadows and high contrasting light and shadows. So now I got to figure it out. I'm actually going, adding in the rocks. I like drawing these little pebbles and rocks on the ground. That's something I picked up looking at Jeff Darrow art. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Darrow. You guys should just check that guy out. He is just absolutely a master of these little high details and just just super detailed and clean lines. So I'm just kind of bolding, kind of making the outline a little thicker. By outlining, by thickening the outline, it just makes the overall figure kind of like stand out more. And also I'm being mindful of the light source. So the light source is, normally I just put my light source at 11, 12, 1 o'clock position. And with that in mind, you kind of like, you know, figure out which part is the light and which part is the dark. Adding more details around the toes, his feet. Normally, I won't be erasing, right away after I ink this. I usually like to let it dry for like an hour, completely get like bone dry before I go in and erase anything. But this is a kneaded eraser, so I'm not really like rubbing really hard. I'm just more like tapping it, kind of like lightly, get most of the graphite off, the pencil graphite off the inked figures. So I'm just right now rooting around off camera, rooting around my drawer full of art supplies. So that is a koi watercolor pens, which which I found on Amazon. A friend of mine was using this watercolor pen, and I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed using it. So I went and bought one at Amazon. So it's actually really cool. And so watercolors, I really hate watercolor because it is such a hard medium to control. But having a watercolor pen just makes it easier. So I often just use the watercolor pen to give it that touch, a spot of color in black and white drawings. And so here's my Copic marker, which is a warm gray tone. And I decided to just add a little bit more tone to the robe. So I'm not sure if you guys can see it. My large brush ink area wasn't completely dry, so you can see the Copic marker kind of smearing it, making the lines kind of softer, which actually works. Yeah, so just having the Copic marker kind of give you a little bit more control of light and dark. Crow's feet and the little shadow under the nose and the smile line around his mouth. Kind of just a little kind of on the lightsaber, kind of make it a slightly darker glow. I'm just like going in and kind of giving that extra detail with a 0-1 size, that really thin nib. Just adding that kind of like feather-like little tiny little details that, that kind of give it that extra, chef's kiss. Kind of thickening the outline of that right side. Adding the details on his lightsaber, which I completely made up. Just a little cross hatching, giving it more, giving that extra texture to that his robe. Now I'm kind of like making the stormtrooper's helmet outlining it a little bit thicker, then give it that extra oomph. By thickening the outline, it just makes the overall if you want the image to be noticeable, just you have to like thicken the images that you want people to kind of really focus on. Adding the final details. All right, so I'm switching out the pen because sometimes when I use the pen, on a wet ink, it kind of gunks it up. Now I got my white acrylic paint, and I'm gonna just kind of add that highlights in the hair. Just having the extra highlights just makes the drawing a little bit more organic, more three-dimensional. Now this is Dr. Martin's acrylic white paint. Normally I would use Pro White, which is essentially the same thing, but my bottle, I couldn't get the plastic cap open. It just kind of welded shut from, so I threw that away and then got Dr. Martin's acrylic white paint, which actually I like it better. I'm just adding all the little details on the rocks and the pebbles on the ground. And just those little extra, the final touches. And yep, there it is. Everything's done. I decided to, at this point, just leave it alone. I could probably go in and fiddle around more, but there's Yoda.